Tonight on CFTK-TV News, the Terrace RCMP mentioned a stolen truck in a recent report. The taps at the Trans Mountain Pipeline have been turned on, and citizens concerned about wildlife can make their voices heard in Terrace and Smithers this weekend.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cal Maslin. Now for news from the Northwest and beyond. Terrace City Councillor Sarah Zimmerman announced that she'll be throwing her hat in the ring for the BC NDP nomination for Skeena in the fall provincial election. CFTK-TV's Jaylene Matthews sat down with Councillor Zimmerman to learn more.
As this election came upon us, it was a decision I made about 5 months ago, and really started reaching out to people in the riding that I knew had been connected to the NDP for years, and really trying to look at growing our membership a little bit and connecting with folks with the view to seek the nomination. And here we are.
And so what would you want to bring to the party and bring to the riding?
Well, I think there's two things. One is this seeking the nomination. It's really important to note that the New Democratic Party is rooted in democracy, so having members choose who the candidate will be is really important. As the first approved contestant to seek the nomination coming out, it gives me an opportunity to connect with our members on a really kind of meaningful and deep basis and find out what is important to them and really get a better understanding of the issues that are affecting people across our riding. And then if I'm successful and do get voted by our members to become the candidate, I think that my background gives kind of a unique set of experience and breadth of experience across the riding that positions me uniquely to do a really good job as the MLA. So if you think, I've worked in industry, I've worked in the public sector, I've been an entrepreneur, I've sat on the board of directors for My Mountain Co-op and the BC Games Society. So I have this kind of breadth of experience both across the riding, but across different sectors that gives me a really good understanding of what issues are affecting people across the riding. And so I'm really looking forward to being a loud and strong voice for Skeena, and have that ability to kind of like bring people together. And that's been my goal since November, is really trying to grow our membership, which is growing, and it's strong, and it's full of like progressive, dedicated people who really want to see Skeena become an NDP riding again.
Nice. And what would you say the big issues are?
Well, I think affordability is probably the biggest issue that people are facing. You know, in the north, we're having a real hard time recruiting doctors and nurses for our medical facilities, and I know that the provincial government is working on recruitment plans. Northern Health is doing that, and so finding ways that we can support that and make sure that when we have this beautiful new hospital that's going to be open, which was an NDP initiative that finally funded it, that we also have really well-qualified doctors that are going to be there when it opens up.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, is there anything else you wanted to add?
I just think this is a real privilege, you know. Being an elected official isn't always glamorous, but it is hard, important, tremendously impactful work. And I care a lot about the Skeena riding. I've spent 24 years here. I've been in Terrace as long as for half my life.
In a report detailing the past week or so, the Terrace RCMP highlighted some of the most notable calls out of the 192 that they got. But out of all the mentioned incidents, like a woman being denied entry to a plane due to intoxication, the potentially most consequential is the spotlighting of a Ford F-250 being stolen from the long-term parking lot at the Northwest Regional Terrace Airport. The theft is believed to have happened between April 10th and 24th, and some of the truck's most notable characteristics include a distinctive wood canopy and winch on its front. Terrace's police are asking that anyone who ends up spotting the truck to not approach it, but to instead call them at 250-638-7400. The Terrace RCMP have announced that they recently began giving the proper training to some of their members in order to restart the local bike patrol. The Kickstarter group has already taken to the streets of Terrace in order to watch over the city's high crime areas alongside the already existing patrol units. The RCMP were able to recreate this unit after applying to get funding from Special Investigation and Targeted Enforcement, or Site to specifically on use on bicycles as well as foot patrols from May until December. And the funds given also allowed the police to purchase 4 new bicycles for the aforementioned patrols. The Terrace's RCMP's current plan is to train more people for these bike patrols, and they've also stated that the public will see more of these officers during the upcoming summer. Citizens concerned about the state of wildlife management in BC can voice their concerns this weekend in Smithers and Terrace. The BC Wildlife Federation will host a town hall meeting at the Smithers Rod and Gun Club on Saturday at 7 p.m. and at the Terrace Rod and Gun Club at Sunday at noon. The meeting will feature a presentation by the BC Wildlife Federation, a public hearing, as well as a question period. Steve Hamilton of the Wildlife Federation says the goal is to arm the public with information ahead of October's provincial election.
In a nutshell, our fish, wildlife, and habitat has been underfunded for over 50 years. We are watching key habitats decline, fish and wildlife populations decline. The management of everything involved in that is in decline, and it's time for people that care about wildlife and habitat to raise their voice and demand better.
Coming up next is some information about BC's new dental program. Welcome back. It's a project nearly 13 years old as the taps at the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion were turned on, sending Alberta oil products to a Burnaby shipping terminal. CTV's Ben Milger recounts its history, from delays to billions in cost overruns and fierce opposition.
Seated on the shores of Burrard Inlet, Will George reflects on years of activism against the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion.
You know, these are spiritual highways. This is what sustained our people for thousands of years. So, you know, all the direct action that I was called to do over the years was a high honor.
Despite the best efforts of George and other activists, Trans Mountain says this photo shows what it is calling the Golden Weld, completing the 1,100-kilometer pipeline from Alberta to a coastal terminal in Burnaby. Proponents of the project say it is a key piece of infrastructure which will provide a boost to Canada's oil industry, contributing to job growth, royalties, and corporate taxes.
These broader economic benefits of infrastructure like this is perhaps the most important implication of the project now coming online.
The expansion of the existing Trans Mountain pipeline allows close to 900,000 barrels of oil per day to flow to the export terminal, but that capacity comes at a cost. The federal government bought the project from Kinder Morgan in 2018 for $4.5 billion. During construction, the total cost ballooned to $34 billion, which works out to $873 per person in Canada.
There's no question we have some problems here in this country around building some major infrastructure. And as much as it's a day to celebrate, it's also a day to reflect we really can do better than this.
The project has overcome the cost overruns, construction delays, and fierce opposition. The Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh nations took the fight all the way to the Supreme Court, where they were ultimately unsuccessful.
We're going to be here for quite some time.
George and other activists actually suspended themselves beneath the Ironworkers Memorial Bridge in 2018, and he spent 28 days in jail for violating a court injunction.
Puts a lump in my throat. It's hard to know that all that work that my nation did, that I did, and the people of Vancouver still didn't arise to protecting our lands and waters. It's still at a huge risk right now.
To give you an idea of just how big of a lightning rod this project still is, it is opening with no ribbon cuttings, no photo ops, no public fanfare of any kind. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
Yesterday was the first day that seniors 70 and older can have their dentist visits paid for by the new dental care plan. The program is administered by the federal government, but in BC, only a fraction of dentists have actually signed up for it, and finding a provider may be difficult. CTV's Shannon Patterson has the story.
And open, please. 82-year-old Alex Phillips is the first patient at this New Westminster clinic to be treated under the federal government's new dental care plan for low to middle income Canadians who don't have private insurance.
When I found out about it, I called in right away. Dental costs can be very expensive.
Especially for seniors who don't have insurance.
And yes, that are on a pension.
As soon as I heard that the program was going to happen, I realized we're going to help a lot of people in the community who don't get access to care on a regular basis, and that's inspiring.
Good to go.
Burrard Dental Care in Vancouver also signed on and saw its first patients under the new plan today.
So I'm excited to have cases where we see work that needs to be done and we're able to offer that, and price is no longer a major limiting factor.
But those two clinics are in the minority. According to the BC Dental Association, only about 15% of providers in the province have signed on to the new federal program.
Unless the program demonstrates that it's not going to cost more to execute to the private practice, dentists will not want to sign up.
Concerns about increased paperwork and how the program is being administered are also keeping BC dentists on the sidelines.
Before we sign up as a private practice, I want to wait and see.
From the research I've done and what I've looked at, I'm happy with where the plan is, and I think it provides a big benefit. But I understand my colleagues and why they might be willing to wait or wanting to wait.
For Alex Phillips, the new program is life-changing. The fact you don't have to pay, that makes a big difference.
All the difference in the world, yes.
For now, only seniors 70 and over can make appointments. Patients can search for providers in their area who have signed on using this online tool from Sun Life.
Yeah, we're getting phone calls from people, and they're booking, and they want to know what's covered. They want to know what they can do with their plan.
But this dentist worries if others don't sign up, there won't be enough providers for British Columbians who finally have coverage. Shannon Patterson, CTV News, New Westminster.
A 27-year-old Surrey man was charged in relation to one of two stabbings near the White Rock Pier last week. He has not been charged with murder despite being arrested in connection with the fatal stabbing. CTV's Ben Milger has more.
The pair of very public stabbings in the heart of White Rock's popular strip left the community reeling, but some say they will rest easier knowing a suspect is in custody. In court, we got our first look at the man charged with one violent crime and suspected in another. Dimitri Nelson Hyacinth appeared by video from RCMP cells where he is being held. He said little during the proceeding except for an affirmative mumble when the judge asked him to confirm his identity. He is charged with aggravated assault in relation to a stabbing on the White Rock Pier on Sunday, April 21st. The emergency response team arrested Hyacinth at about 2:30 Monday afternoon in this residential neighborhood in South Surrey.
There were so many cop cars, it was insane, and it was completely blocked off. Could not figure out what was going on.
Investigators confirm he was initially arrested in relation to the stabbing death of 26-year-old Kulwinder Singh Sohi, which took place last Tuesday and also happened near the pier.
I know there was a concern from the public regarding public safety. So for us to be able to apprehend someone, to have them in custody, certainly does give a sense of relief to the community, and it does allow us a chance to further our investigation.
A home believed to be connected to Hyacinth remained behind police tape Tuesday afternoon. As patrol officers kept watch outside the house, investigators worked inside and canvassed the neighborhood for information about the suspect. Police have not said if or when charges can be expected in the homicide. Even though a suspect is in custody, police say the investigation remains active, and they are once again appealing for anyone with information about what happened or video from the area to get in touch with investigators. In the meantime, tonight at 7 p.m., RCMP will hold a town hall at White Rock Community Center to address concerns about public safety and talk about enhanced patrols for the summer. Ben Milger, CTV News, Surrey.
Turning to tonight's weather, the north coast shall get some clouds at a low at 7 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area will be home to partly cloudy conditions at a low of 6 degrees. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District should get a few clouds as well, plus a low of -2 degrees. On the north coast, the upcoming week will deal with a little bit of sun, but mostly clouds and rain otherwise, as the high shifts from 13 to 9 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, their week will almost exclusively be rain and clouds, with their high moving from 17 to 11 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the next week or so for them should see somewhat mixed sunny and cloudy days, plus some rain too, and the high will bounce from 16 to 13 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is utility work, bridge maintenance, road sweeping, construction work, paving operations, and a material spill. Highway 37 has some bridge and shoulder maintenance while also having frost heaves, some road maintenance work on the Nishka Highway, and the Telegraph Creek Road has muddy sections and frost heaves. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come is another look at the pro-Palestine protests happening at many North American universities. Welcome back. More pro-Palestinian protest camps are being erected at BC universities. 2 more went up at campuses on Vancouver Island. CTV's Martin McMahon took a closer look as activists emulate tent city protests first set up on U.S. campuses.
We're here indefinitely until they listen to our demands.
Tents have been set up at the University of Victoria and also at Vancouver Island University in Nanaimo. Students setting up so-called solidarity encampments. The activists are demanding the schools divest from companies they claim are complicit in the ongoing war, which has left tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians dead.
So we're all here in solidarity with Palestine and with campuses worldwide who are joining in on the call to push their universities to divest from all ties to Israel.
They also want the administration to declare Israeli military actions in response to the massacre by the terrorist group Hamas that killed around 1,200 Israelis, including large numbers of women and children, as a genocide. The attack prompted Israel's ongoing invasion of Gaza.
They have not condemned this genocide. They have not named it as it is, and they have refused to take a critical and effective stance.
Meanwhile, in Quebec, a judge rejected an injunction request by McGill University to remove protesters at a camp there. And the pro-Palestine encampment at UBC is growing. According to activists, 300 people enter the camp each day, with 60 to 70 people staying overnight.
We're not here to negotiate. We're here to put our demands in place. And so I'm not sure how it would go. If they would meet one of the demands and not all of them.
UBC claims people in the encampment have been taking materials from nearby construction sites and other school property. We asked protesters about that.
Not that I know of. From my understanding, all of the things here have been donated by people. I'm really not sure what they would have meant by that.
Now, as you could probably tell, this is a highly controlled environment. The protesters here have asked us to wear these masks. Everyone coming in here is required to wear a mask. There is also control at the gates in terms of people coming and going. Media are required to wear these tags. And as for those camping here, they say they will be here until all of their demands are met. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
In the United States, hundreds of students were arrested and some were threatened with expulsion as those protests became more increasingly violent. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre returned to the House of Commons after recently being expelled over some comments he made. His removal led to calls for the House Speaker's resignation, but as CTV's Mike Lecoultre reports, a recent question period had a different tone to it.
There were no expulsions or walkouts in the ramped-up rhetoric we saw yesterday.
When will we put an end to this wacko policy by this wacko Prime Minister?
After the Speaker expelled Poilievre, his caucus called for Greg Fergus to be removed.
Should resign. He's a disgrace.
I never did have confidence in this Speaker.
CTV News caught up with Greg Fergus, but he refused to address questions about his future.
Can't respond. It might be unfair for the speaker to comment on things that happen in the House.
Do you regret how things played out yesterday?
His office later said he has no intention of stepping down. Liberals put the blame on the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre.
Canadians expect us to work, to deliver for them, and not to act as children, and the leader of the opposition needs to stop acting as a child.
In an interview with Toronto's CP24, Poilievre was unapologetic for the language he used, which led to his removal from the House of Commons.
His policies are wacko. Hiking the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre, wacko. Doubling housing costs, wacko.
Now, it's unclear if the Conservatives will continue to call for the removal of the Speaker or if the tone of today's question period will also continue. Mike Lecoulteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is up 32/10 of a cent. The price of gold is down $1.40. Oil is down 5 cents. Natural gas is up 11 cents. Aluminum is down $14. In Toronto, the TSX is up 94.67 points. The Venture Index is down 3.53. In New York, the Dow Jones is up 322.37, and Nasdaq is up 235.48. Still ahead, the Canucks have another chance to advance to the second round of the playoffs. Welcome back. The Canucks traveled to Nashville after losing 2-1 to the Predators in Game 5. Vancouver has another chance to end the series Friday, and as CTV's Ben Nesbitt reports, the franchise's track record shows they have a good shot to advance.
After 2 scoreless periods, Nikita Zadorov sent Rogers Arena into a frenzy, but that energy was quickly zapped by the road team.
Forsberg down, Yoshi in, pucks behind Sheelan to reach around to Tim. Back to the blue line, Perrier with a shot, scores!
The Predators stave off elimination with a 2-1 win.
Just an opportunity missed, right? There's no way around that. I mean, that was the game that was there for the taking.
For the 4th time in this series, the Canucks were outshot and are now just 2 for 13 with a man advantage.
Our power play was awful. We need to take a look in the mirror as a group here. It can't just be every other game decide to play well.
The execution wasn't good. We got to make a play under pressure, and sometimes you just take what's given.
While the Canucks have had to play 3 different goalies this series, some close to the team feel that's far from their biggest issue.
I think the biggest thing is this team's going to find a way to score, right? I mean, when you look at just the shots they've generated, the shots on goal through 5 games, it's the second lowest number in the history of the NHL playoffs. You're sitting at 92 shots generated through 5 games. I mean, it's just shocking.
The series now shifts back to Bridgestone Arena for Game 6, where the Canucks will have another shot at closing out the series, a situation the franchise has been in before.
Henrik Sedin, Kessler in front, loose puck, Daniel scores!
While the team has its eyes set on the ultimate prize, a few players are up for individual awards. Goalie Thatcher Demko was nominated for the Vezina Trophy for the league's top netminer, while Quinn Hughes is now the first Canuck to be nominated for the Norris Trophy, awarded to the top defenseman. Rogers Arena will once again be open for a watch party on Friday. Puck drop goes at 4 p.m. Ben Nesbitt, CTV News, Vancouver.
That's our news for now. From everyone at CFTK-TV, I'm Cale Maslin. Thanks for watching.